The Bookshelf with me, Ryan Tubridy, is brought to you by Eason, Ireland's favourite bookseller. And Eason have a rich heritage of book selling since 1886. It's probably where you got your first ever book, or maybe your last one, and hopefully your next one after you listen to this episode of our podcast. So stay listening for Ryan Recommends, of course, my weekly recommendation, where I'll discuss a book I've read recently that I think you'll really enjoy too. And make sure to browse your local Eason store for your next book, or explore hundreds of thousands of titles online at easons.com. Order before 6 p.m. for same-day dispatch and enjoy free delivery when you spend over a tenner. Whether you're after the latest bestseller, a hidden gem, or a classic read, Eason has you covered. Eason, be inspired. Today on the Bookshelf, we are joined by Amy Huberman. Hello, Amy.
How are you doing, Ryan?
I've got a formal introduction I need to get down to business on, so bear with us. You are an acclaimed Irish actress, a writer and entrepreneur, and you have built a vibrant career, including the hit comedy Finding Joy, which you wrote and starred in. We can talk about that. And off screen, she's been writing best-selling novels and more recently has launched her very own wine label. Today, we're diving into the books that have shaped her world. Amy, welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's really nice to see you. I mean,
I love this podcast, so thanks so much for having me.
You're kind to say so. And you know what? I haven't seen you for quite a while, actually.
No.
I don't know how long it has been. But I always enjoy seeing you because
likewise.
I think we do kind of have a bit of a back of the class vibe sometimes.
We've had a lot of fun just, gassing outside. We've run out of energy now. We're done.
We're going to be like...
That's a wrap.
There you are.
See you later. Good
Thanks
to see
very
you
much.
soon.
Thanks. There were 3 great books in there, but not for today. But I suppose that's because it's about humour, and we've always had a good sense of humour. You're a very funny person, and you don't take life too seriously if you can help it.
Yeah. Sometimes we need to, and other times it's good to run away from that.
Well, there is that. And by before we get stuck in, even just to explain to our friends listening or watching, when you sat down, I said, "You sure you don't want to get ready, get changed?" And you said, "No." You said that sounds like something my dad used to say. Can you share that joke because it's really funny?
Oh, we were just laughing about dad jokes, and my dad was such a dad joker, and I've learned all I could have learned from him. Anytime my mum, came back from the hairdresser, he would always just say, "Oh, you couldn't get an appointment."
I mean, it's so goofy.
It's great.
But I love
it's great.
that.
Yeah. And he was a fan of the repeat joke, which my husband accuses me of. But I'm like, listen, double down.
The repeat jokes are flawless. And the reason that it's like a cliche, they're there for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, there's people doing stand-up shows that are doing the same show. Yeah. So Dad was doing that one for a number of years.
I love that. Let's start at the beginning then and go back. You brought in your 3 books and thank you for that.
Yeah.
I suppose if we start at the beginning, like I say, your house. I don't know who's in it and whose brothers, sisters. When you're little,
when I was a kid,
when you're 5 or 6.
But that was really weird. It was like, who's in your house?
Who's there now?
Oh God, security.
Do you have CCTV footage?
It's quite terrifying. But yes, who was in my house?
In fact, I can tell you who's in your house. I've got the cameras on now.
We're going to talk about books. No. So who was in my house when we were kids? So I have an older brother and a younger brother. My mum and my dad and our dog. That was our little family setup.
I get the sense that you're a fairly bookish family. Would that be fair to say? Were there lots of books knocking around? Or
it's funny actually. I was talking to my mum and my brothers about this, and my older brother was the biggest reader in the house. Yeah. My mum, I asked her this recently, and she was like, "I don't think I read much when you were small," and I can completely identify with that. Like the early years of my kids being young, I don't think I read the back of a cereal box.
Yeah, to your own kids.
No, to anything. I think it was just too busy.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, of course.
No, not to the kids. Actually, that is another joy
story.
that we will discuss. Yeah. But I mean, when they're little, and you can you're getting through the day. Yeah,
sure.
But so Mum was like, she didn't read. She kind of read, I think, when we were older. My dad read loads of Wilbur Smith books.
Right.
Like had a fascination with Africa. I used to paint African animals. So that was a big thing. And also cartoon books. Like he was a big fan of Gary Larson. So he had
great.
Oh, absolutely love them. And I still have them in my house.
Well, because we share that. My dad was the exact same. And I wonder what that is because Your dad, just by the humour you're describing, had a very same to mine. And it's quite droll, and quite dry, but very funny. And Gary Larson, why don't you explain what Gary Larson did? Because they're very particular.
Yeah, he would just be able to identify the ridiculous. That's why I loved Gary Larson. The ridiculous in the very day-to-day things. They always involved animals.
Always involved. Who could stand up?
So and stare out of windows at like one eye. Like even there was this thing about like ants. You know the way kids collect like little like bugs and stuff and put them in a jam jar for a while. But there's obviously a kid had taken like a couple of ants from the garden, put them in the jar, and all his pals were outside, with placards going, "Free the mayonnaise jar 7." And it was easy to digest. I mean, you didn't have to sit down because I wasn't a big reader as a kid. I wasn't a big reader. So obviously that for me was like gold.
You're the first person to mention Gary Larson in the 3 series of this show. So I'm so happy that you brought him into the room, because he really sparked off the memories as well, because they were, it's also the power of just leaving books about the place. Yeah. Your folks, and you're just, sure, what's this? I look at it.
Yes.
And then you there's something about coming of age with reading where you go, I get this joke.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think as well, the testament of a really good cartoonist is that they manage to capture either a sentiment or a story in a little single box.
Yeah.
And it is storytelling in a different way, but it's just really accessible humour.
You also, precisely. And you're also talking about the fact that, and that's why one of the reasons this program that I enjoy it is because you don't have to read Dostoevsky or Jane Austen, or if you read a comic, that's reading. There's no snobbery. There shouldn't be any snobbery in reading. No. But comics are great. I just love them anyway. But,
oh my God, I loved comics, and I was not a strong reader. I was not a big reader. Like even when obviously I had to figure out what I was reading, but I did read. I didn't read a lot, and my older brother was I remember when he sat down to read The Hobbit, I was like, don't tell Mum. I was like, she might make me read it. I used to love comics. I had all the Care Bear comics. I had Buster and Whizzer and Chips, and I used to love going and get them every week. And then they changed Whizzer and Chips every 2 weeks. I was devastated.
Yes.
And I did read, but I wasn't a great speller. I wasn't a fast reader, and it always slightly intimidated me.
Well, tell me about school. Did you enjoy school?
I loved school, but I dreaded homework. I still remember home and spelling. I was never a great speller.
You're like myself, a chatterbox. Did you get anything done at school? Were you what?
I was a bit of a mix. I was quite conscientious though. I didn't want to get into trouble. No. So maybe I just had all this chat locked in here, and that's why I started writing. I was like, wow.
Okay, so you were a good school kid. You were attentive to your studies, and
I didn't want to get into trouble. And I kind of I walked a line with, loving the fun, potentially doing stuff that might get you into trouble, but just getting away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was probably, I did my work. Like I kind of wanted to get it done.
But you walked the line.
Yeah, a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you have any summer jobs or part-time jobs, can you recall?
Not as a young kid.
As a 7-year-old. I heard talk, there was talk of chimneys. And
exactly. I had loads of summer jobs. And I did loads of babysitting. And then when I was in my 20s, worked in pubs and restaurants.
So you did all the usual.
Yeah.
So back to your younger days, if I may. Your folks were working were they both working, or what was happening there? My
mum was kind of working. She was working in my dad's business. My dad was self-employed. He was a fashion designer, so he had his own label. Worked in Doreen. He came from London in his 30s. My dad is a bit older than my mum. Said he was staying in Ireland for 6 months, and he never left. He was like, I'm going home. And he was still threatening that to the end. But anyway, he stayed and met my mum. And she helped him with his business. But she was at home with us a lot.
Do you remember their origin story, or how they met? Or is that sort of in the dim and distant?
No. My mum she wasn't long out of college. She had studied economics and a business degree, and she did a HDip after that and was teaching. She didn't love it. She didn't want to really be a teacher. So she was modelling kind of part-time. It was a beauty, and still is. And then she went in to model one of his coats. And he was like, wow. Yeah, I like her. And that's how they met.
Isn't that great?
But actually, she says he had such a thick Cockney accent that he asked her out. She didn't know what he was saying.
So coffee.
Yeah, he's like, do you want to, and he was so strong. I mean, my dad's accent was still so strong, and he'd been here for over 40 years.
Amazing.
But he was, she said that she couldn't say pardon a fourth time, so she just said, and then that was their first date. She was like, I think I just agreed to go out with him.
She kind of fell into the date by accident, Thomas. Let's go to your first book, Amy.
Yes.
It's the book from your childhood.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Okay, so when I say I wasn't a great reader, I still really did enjoy reading when it was stuff that I could choose, I guess. You know, there was always the stuff that I thought I had to read. And I mean, there was stuff like the Enid Blytons I liked, but like Shuffle the Shoemaker and all that kind of freaked me out slightly. But I will never forget getting into Roald Dahl. That is just, when I think of it, it is just... It is such a huge part of my childhood. I was fully obsessed with Roald Dahl books.
Yes.
And it was the magic, particularly in the BFG. And talking about my dad, I had a fascination with London since I was a kid.
Did you really?
Huge. Like I would always say it still like feels like a second home to me, because I've got family there, because my dad was from there. So we always spent a lot of time in London. But but I'd ask leading questions. I was like, does Piccadilly Circus have animals? And if someone said yes, question. I'd go,
where are they?
Perfect.
Yeah.
But all of that was like tied into, for me, the BFG, because in that, when Sophie and the BFG go to London and hide in Hyde Park because they want to talk to the Queen, and they're looking in through the windows of Buckingham Palace, I was like, this is amazing. Yeah. When they leave and they're trying to convince her that that all the other big giants are real and that they're coming to eat the people. It's so crazy they'd be coming and eating people at nighttime. Yeah. Like there was that element of going, it was dark. Like it was dark, but there was so much magic around it. And, like the way he made up words. And do you know that he made up Scrumdiddlyumptious? That's Roald Dahl.
That's from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Oh, probably Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, right.
But even in the BFG, like a golden fizz wizard is a great dream.
Whiz popping and stuff.
Oh, yeah. All that. But it's funny, I was back in my uncle's flat, and I will never forget it. Day in London, I was older, I think I was about 12, when it came on the news that he had died.
Roald Dahl, yes, yeah.
And I got such a fright because I was so upset by it. Yeah. I grabbed something and necked it back, right? And this is just such a mashing of like Irish Catholic Ireland.
What were you drinking?
Well, I chugged back someone's wine and I was like, Ryan, I was making my confirmation. I was just about to take the pledge. So all I could think of was, I'm going to hell. I've just broken my pledge.
So much magic and mystery and
guilt and shame, and Irish guilt and shame. Yeah, and I was like, I was so sad. And I remember my mum later going, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I can't believe Roald Dahl said," but I was like, I've already broken my pledge. I was quite traumatized by it.
I was going to say, you're on the phone to him like, I can't believe Roald Dahl I miss him so much. I love Roald Dahl.
I know.
Also, the first thing you went to grab wasn't a glass of 7-Up. It was a glass of wine.
I didn't know it was a glass of wine. I grabbed whatever was.
Something.
There was my uncle had loads of people over in his house. It was just people having a Friday night dinner, and I just grabbed and I went, and then I broke my pledge.
The BFG is the book you've gone for. It is a beautiful story, isn't it? And little Sophie, but he's a very complicated man, as you probably know.
Yes.
There's a play on in the West End called Giant with John Lithgow playing Roald Dahl.
Yeah,
it's not pretty. It's all about the anti-Semitic side to his life. However, that gets into the debate about parking art and the artist and so on, which is not for today. What I will say is that when you read the Tales of the Unexpected, which are his adult stories,
they're dark.
They're really dark.
Yeah,
they are brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know you well enough to know if you've got if your mind goes to this craze where you kind of feast on the darkness just to go, holy smoke, what is going on here? It's like the Twilight Zone stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's Black Mirror now.
There's a bit of that in The Witches and all
kids.
of that.
There is
in
exactly
all of his
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, there's a safety in looking at it because you're kind of going, this is so bizarre. But listen, he is a really amazing storyteller, particularly for kids and that because he didn't mollycoddle you as a child.
That's it. He brought you to the corner, to the shadows in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, when I wrote my first kids book 2.5 years ago, and it's a funny thing, I learned a lot from that because when you look at a lot of kids books, there's death and there's tragedy in so much of them that you kind of want to cushion them from when you're older, but like they can kind of, because even when I was talking to my editor, I was like, oh, this feel, and my book ended up being quite sad, and I didn't intend on that happening. It just happened. But I was like, oh, this feels, and she was like, no, kids can nearly handle that a little bit better than adults, because kids have this thing where they puddle grieve, where they can kind of jump out and in because they process it very differently.
Okay, didn't know that.
But it's kind of I guess it's a preparation thing for life stuff.
Yeah.
So, but they can seem to manage it sometimes a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
In books.
And so that's why you don't want to give them the Pollyanna, school of everything's okay.
Or talk down to them, and it's that as well.
I think that's what he did brilliantly.
Yeah.
He showed adults for being really annoying.
Yeah.
Which we are.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
So we have you in school, not necessarily a voracious reader. You're a good kid. You're not trying to cause trouble. You like to have a bit of messing, and you're doing your into fifth year, sixth year. What did you want to be when you were kind of heading towards the end of school days? Did you have a desire, an ambition?
Well, it's funny. I remember being in secondary school and not doing as well. I really wanted to always do well in exams. I didn't do, specifically talking about all of this, I didn't do as well in an English exam that I wanted to. And my English teacher at the time was like, this, which is lovely. She was like, this particular exam doesn't mean anything. Well, it does, because I didn't do as well. But, in the greater scheme of things, and she said to me, you still go and write that book. I had no intention of writing a book when I was like 16, but I never forgot it.
What did she mean?
Don't
she
know be
that
held by this. Don't be kind of then, that you're this, it's this, self-fulfilling prophecy that it's just one exam. So if you want to go and write a book, write a book. Not that we were even talking about writing a book, but it was in terms of like, I guess, writing and because I did always write stories.
She must have seen something in you.
Maybe she did. And actually, I'm going to visit her next week. I'm still in touch with her.
What's her name?
Dr. McKenna.
And she was your teacher?
She was my teacher,
And you obviously clicked with her?
Yeah. I think she saw my creative ability, and then sometimes we also just got on really well. I remember the first time I was in her class, she was getting us to write a letter. When's the last time you wrote a letter? And I was like, oh, I wrote a letter. We had some guy coming to fix the hot press, and I just had this thing, I'm like, what if he kills me? And I'd written a letter, like this mad letter that my family were going to find. And she just found it quite bizarre that we kind of clicked over that.
You wrote a letter to the hot press guy?
No, not to him. Whoever's going to find me after he was gone. I know.
The gist of the letter was...
Oh, I don't know.
Dear whoever you might be.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. And I was quite young. And I don't know, again, it may have been what I was reading, just the kind of like... when you're just kind of exploring the world and there's like this curiosity and danger and excitement and all these kind of things because you're kind of finding your way in it. But we kind of clicked over that. She thought it was so ridiculous that we laughed over it. But I invited her to my first book launch. I was like, you said to me,
wow.
You can still go and write that book.
Isn't it? This strikes me, like talking about teachers on this show, how important, I'm a fan of teachers anyway, but what might to them be, not whimsical, but just another day at the office.
Yeah.
How defining it can be for somebody. Like a bad teacher can say something that could ruin somebody's ambition or desire to be something.
I know.
But a great teacher, and there's more of them, can change somebody's life because you're so vulnerable anyway at that age.
Yeah, and you're so porous to...
that's right. To soak it up.
To soak it up. And then you kind of, as well, the way the system works is you feel like you have to choose a lane sometimes. So getting that encouragement, I think, can be... And I'm just a big believer of, saying it. If you think it, say it if it's good. Sometimes if it's not good, please don't tell me.
Yeah.
But but if it is going to be something that will encourage somebody, that's great. Why would you keep that to yourself? Yeah. Anyway, she probably didn't even know it was going to be so profound for me, but it was. And then it was a nice little kind of, full circle thing that she came to the book launch and I'm going to go and visit her. But sorry, what you said, what did I want to be? I probably wanted to do something creative. I did love drawing. I thought I could be maybe an animator, but I knew I wanted to do stuff with story. Whether it was drawing, whether it was writing, and I always wanted to write stuff for kids, even though it took me writing the grown up. I say adult fiction. That sounds like it's writing adult fiction, but for grown ups. I mean,
as opposed to
yes, and then who knows? I might write that one day. And then TV, and then to go back to writing kids, because that's actually I think what I wanted to start. That's what I had a huge interest in initially. And then when I got to college, I kind of was like, oh, this looks fun being an actor as well, because I was in Dramsoc. But I don't know what I wanted to be before that.
So you went to where'd you go to college?
To UCD, yeah.
University College Dublin to study. What was your degree in?
I did social science, which I didn't love. It wasn't for me. It was fine. Yeah. And I actually reapplied on the CAO to do science.
Did you?
I was like, I don't know if I want to restart a 4-year degree. And my brother was already doing it. He was like, you're currently on an 18-hour week. I don't know if you want to jump to 40.
Oh yeah, that is quite. So you were in UCD and Dramsoc, or the Drama Society, that as it's to give it its full title. That was a bright light that was attracting this particular moth. And why? Where did that come from? Because you haven't alluded to any sort of desire to act in your childhood yet, or? Well,
actually, we did. I had done acting classes since I was a kid.
So you were always that was always bubbling there. Along. I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, and we used to, like, on our road, we used to write plays. Like, so it was writing.
Absolute nerds. This is wonderful. Yeah.
And like the audacity to charge our neighbours to come and see it.
You did. What sort of plays? Can you give us a gist? Who knows?
I can only imagine.
You were in them.
I was in them. I can't remember them.
Were you the star turn, or were you a backing sort of extra type person?
I mean, I would have fought. Oh my God, I have another Roald Dahl story of my childhood. Sorry, the first time I ever performed on stage, it was Roald Dahl. It was in drama classes, and I did a one-woman show that lasted 3 minutes, and it was of one of the revolting rhymes, the porcupine.
Oh, great, yeah. The porcupine.
Yeah.
Can you remember any lines from it?
Do you know what? I looked at it the other day, because when I was like, oh God, a porcupine. And I don't think I could recite them now, but I was able to kind of mumble along with them.
As you went along.
Yeah. But I loved it. And that gave me, I remember that going, oh, this feels great now that I've got this audience. My mum still talks about it. I don't know how old I was. It was probably 8 or 9. But we had this thing, the whole story of that revolting rhyme is that she gets her sweets and she wants to eat them in peace as a kid, and goes to the forest and goes to sit down and sits on a porcupine. And then all the spines are in her butt, and she has to go to the dentist, and he it's again really odd, pluck them out. So I did this, and we had this. The costume was I sat down on this cushion that had spikes, and I'll give you a laugh, because my mum to this day goes, that should still be your party piece.
No.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's just lodged in your mum's mind.
And imagine like being at a house party and people are singing like Luke Kelly, and I come out going, guys, wait. I just have to sort out the cushion. She sat upon the... Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I did. Myself and my older brother Mark did go to drama classes together, and
he's
loved
an actor
it.
too now.
He's an actor, and I followed him into it. I just followed him everywhere he went. And he was kind of shyer than me, so Mum was like, it'll get him out of his shell. But and he was a year ahead of me in Trinity, and he was in Players there, and he looked like he was having great crack. So I was like, oh, we'll just do this as well. And then he did get his first job. So I was like, well, maybe this is something that could be a career.
And so it began.
Yeah. So after UCD, I did do an MA in media studies, and there was I was like, well, maybe if I end up writing, stuff for TV and stuff. But anyway, I was lured into acting first of all, and I mean, it's still one of my first loves. I love them both.
But you've really put kind of meat on the bones of what you were to become because of all these really interesting bits of, magpieing from, your dad's interest in design and your mum's interest in, whatever she was kind of guiding you towards. And all of these things are all there. And now we have you as a kind of nearly fully formed human about to head out into the adult world. No, I don't mean today. I mean, I'm talking in terms of them. You'll never be a fully formed human. Now, we have this in common. The book that brought you joy, book 2 today. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the books that brought me joy, over the ones that really stand out, there was 2 of them. And again, I guess it was a love affair at the time with London, was probably Bridget Jones first and foremost. Yeah. And again through my 20s was Marion Keyes. I was like, oh, it was like somebody had, tapped into our collective psyche at my age group and gone, oh,
there it is.
This is a story for us. This is great. And it doesn't have to be, it felt just very real and very human. And I absolutely loved it. And also hilariously funny and relatable, all of that. So that led me to kind of Bridget Jones territory. And then I just thought that was so fascinating. I was like, oh my God, I want to go and have my disasters in London. I want to cry on the sofa with wine. I was like, that's great. That's being a messy adult. And like, that I was just so excited for that stage of my life. And then this one, when I thought about books that actually really brought me joy and made me fully laugh out loud, it's hard. You don't often laugh out loud.
No, very rarely.
I laughed out loud so much at that. I think I've read this book about 3 or 4 times.
And this book is
Caitlin Moran's How to Be a Woman.
So what's she writing about, and what's the crack?
Well, she's writing about the female experience for it's a non-fiction memoir. So it goes from when she's also just a very clever, funny writer.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, very funny. But I felt, I don't know, it was nearly a zeitgeist moment for me at the time, because every generation kind of comes to look at the world from, where they're coming from.
Sure.
And I just had felt, for me, it was, I don't know, like that women never really talked about their stuff.
Yeah.
So it was the first time I read something and I was like, it cracked it open.
Physical, emotionally,
Yes,
mentally,
like,
all the stuff that society chooses, that's
Sure.
for women, and that goes over there.
Yeah.
And they talk about themselves. And she's at the last, you're going, that's on the bookshelf. Now it's
Yes,
all up
yes,
for
yes,
discussion
yes.
and not to be shied away from and made feel awkward.
Or
Yeah.
that it wasn't ladylike to discuss it. And, so she talks about, like, from being a kid, like the crazy puberty years, talks all about like just expectation of getting older, staying young, having kids, marriage, all of it. And it felt like it was, and the whole manifesto is just like less self-flagellation, more fun.
Great.
And that was it. It was like talking about really big topics like, sexism at work and stuff, but through really funny writing and really raw writing. So I was like, it wasn't like somebody was teetering around the edge of it. It was like somebody dived in and brought you with it. And actually, do you know what a book I've never read, which I think it could be like, was written before this, is Nora Ephron's I Feel Bad About My Neck. And I will read that. And I'll come on again.
I want to. I love the way the finger went up in the air, going, "I by God!" I like Ich bin ein Berliner over here, pronouncing.
I'm going to read that.
I will read this book, as God is my witness.
I have 2 copies of Nora Ephron's book, I Feel Bad About My Neck.
Well, all you need to do is read one of them.
I need to just read one. Put one on both, the 2 eyes. Just do it.
So Caitlin Moran is I love the sound of that, and because I think that men, like I remember one stage going, I watched every single episode of every season of Sex and the City.
I love that.
To see what is going on.
Yes,
I was having a crisis in my life, and I was thinking, I need to watch this to try and understand the world a bit more through the prism of this real life drama.
Yeah.
God, I learned an awful lot, I have to say. There's a lot to be said for. Now, I know that's probably a bit glib, but I think if I was to read this, it would be no harm.
Oh, you should read it.
I love that.
And she's written she wrote another book a couple of years later that she kind of had like, because we can only feel how we feel in the moment, and we grow, and then you learn different things, or you change your mind about certain things. So she wrote a second one kind of going, oh, I remember I said that, and I'm just going to like to review that slightly, because she's at a different time in her life.
That's a different time. Yeah. So here's this week's Ryan Recommends, brought to you by Eason, Ireland's favourite bookseller. I'm going to go with My Friends by Frederick Backman. Curious little one, this, because here you have 4 friends in a town one summer. They've got interrelated stories, and by the end of their stories, they're all troubled backgrounds and what have you. Somebody paints this beautiful painting. Many decades later, Louisa comes along, she sees the painting, sees the 4 friends, and goes, what happened here? And so begins her investigation into their lives, and what transpires is a story of resilience and interpersonal relationships. It's an intriguing prospect, well worth a read. Give it a go. And now back to the show. You got into the acting world and became very well known as an actor, and that's your career. Like your what you call a dream came true, but also then you started writing, and you became and have become a very accomplished businesswoman in the middle of everything, because you've sidebar work beyond the acting.
Yeah.
Where is that your dad's influence? Is that the gene, the business gene? Because if you're in the rag trade, to use the old expression, you need to know how to hustle, and you need to know how to keep going.
Yeah.
Do you think that's where that came from, or was your mum involved in that too?
Yeah, I think it's probably a sprinkling of everything.
Okay.
That you come to a point, and you definitely have to be on the hustle when you're an actor and a writer. Like, you constantly have to kind of keep showing up with it in a different way.
Existence.
Oh no, it's really precarious, and at times it is daunting, and it comes in. As actors often say, that the tide goes out and the tide comes in, and sometimes it's like holding your nerve at the times where you're going, that's it. And I know so many actors just go at the end of a job, that is literally it. Goodbye to the industry. I'll never see you again. So there is always that, and I think that's why I started writing, because I wanted some control over it, and I also wanted the discipline of doing something. of sitting down and getting involved with character and story if I wasn't doing it on a set. And it gave me something to do. But yeah, the stuff that comes later, I think, I don't know, just still having a curiosity about things and going, why not?
This is what's going to keep me alive till the very end, is curiosity.
Yeah, I love it.
You've got. How did you meet your husband?
How did I meet my husband? He was on your show. No, I was on your show. I told you this before.
Tell them.
I tell them.
Tell them.
This is quite.
You were a guest on Tubridy Tonight.
When the clinic was on.
Go on.
And then Brian was he was injured and he was at home and he
Rugby
was watching
player
it.
par excellence, living legend Brian O'Driscoll, Irish captain, etc., was watching TV at home with an injured leg or whatever it was. And
yeah. And we were on anyway, and he was kind of, I think he was like, he enjoyed the chat, and he was like, I don't know who she is. Who is she? And rang a
I know who you rang.
Yeah, he knows you rang Joanne. Go on, Joanne Byrne. She got us together. Anyway, and he was like, Is she a hermit? Like, we're the same age.
I thought you said, is she or her?
Is she a her? That's just the first question. Is she a hermit?
Before we go any further, yes. I want to find out one thing.
Yeah, just like, I've got a lot of questions. Number one.
So is she a hermit?
Is she a hermit? And actually, Joanne said no, she's living in London at the time. So the next time I came home, they had kind of orchestrated doing themselves that we would kind of bump into each other and invite. Do you know Norma Sheehan? Of course,
yeah,
you
the
know
actress.
Norma
Yeah, of course.
Sheehan.
Yeah, brilliant actress.
She's a great friend of mine as well, and crazy, and it's such a great, entertaining way. She's just she's a breath of fresh air. Anyway, we went down to visit another friend of ours. Coming back, they decided that we would. She actually talking about books. She's like, I have to drop a book to somebody in the Marion. I was like, so random. And we were in like tracksuits.
Shopping centre?
No,
the
in
Marion
the Marion Hotel.
Oh, the Marion Hotel. Excuse me. Sorry,
fancy.
5-star.
Oh, yeah,
and you're dressed like you are today. Like you're going to put the bins out.
Oh
my God, I can't believe I said that.
Oh, go
I'm
on,
so sorry.
I'll
You look
take
amazing.
It.
Look at. You haven't heard.
I don't get this dressed up to take the bins out.
Sorry, you go to the Marion Hotel dressed like whatever you're dressed like.
Yeah, like not
drop
appropriately.
In this book.
Drop in the book, and then anyway, and Brian is kind of he's shyer, so he was like had a total crisis, going, "This is wild. I can't do this. She's the only one in this whole thing that doesn't know this is happening. It feels really wrong." And then
this feels kind of creepy.
Yeah, he was afraid of that side of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite sweet that he.
No, I think that's a good sign of him. That's a good thing.
And then I think Joanne literally said to him the words were, "Are you a man or a mouse?" And he was like, "I don't know."
Hang on, I've just called my mum.
Yes, exactly. I have to go out and run at like giant other men, but I might be a mouse at times.
Like pitch lion.
Yes.
House mouse.
Outside the Marion mouse. Don't love that.
So what? You're dumped into the Marion.
We all
you all collide.
Yeah.
And then the other two.
Tracksuits, all sorts.
Can't commit here looking like that.
I know.
Anyway.
And we all sat in a crew together and got on really well. Anyway, so he
and the rest is, as they say. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great story. And he's a great reader. He's been a guest on the podcast here with us too. So I can see why he's also got a great sense of humour.
Yeah, he does.
Which is lovely.
Yeah.
And there's a mischief which I love about it, which you don't often see. But anyway, this isn't about him. This is about you. And even though, you know, I'm a fan of his too, but we're here talking about this. And then you got married and you have 3 kids, as you've mentioned. Do you read to them? And have you always?
That's one of my
is that
favorite
one of your things?
Like sometimes I do go, oh God, bedtime, and then I know it's a mix. It's a mix.
What's that panic for? Just because I have to go and read all these things?
No, not the reading. The reading is the lovely part, but it's a come on.
The military exercise.
That bit is sometimes could last forever. And I don't read to my older kids now because you know they're doing it themselves, but I still have my youngest, and that is genuinely a joy, because I think the books for his particular age group are the stuff that like just sings to your heart. That's just all the Oliver Jeffers, all that stuff that makes you just go, oh, crying.
They are beautiful.
They're beautiful. Yeah. They're beautiful. And like I say, like the magic
short,
of
which
them.
is even more beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the one they pick up the one that is like really long, you're going, ooh. And then he knows now, he's like, you skipped.
They're so smart.
Skipped the middle bit.
Skipped a bit.
I know, but it's just really cute because it starts conversations with them, and also he is at that stage where the world is this giant playground and anything could happen. So that is a real joy, and you only have that for a certain amount of years before I guess we have to grow up.
Let's go to your third and final book, which is the book that changed your life. Where are you going for that?
It's big. It feels big to say that.
It's big, but it's beautiful if you get the book.
Yeah.
Do you have one that actually did change your life?
Do you know what? It's a book that I've just finished reading.
Oh, crikey, okay.
So, really good friend of mine, John, had given me this book a good few years ago, and I can't remember what I was writing at the time, but I was struggling with it in whatever capacity. And he gave me that, and I didn't read it at the time. I was like, okay, fine. I was probably too busy just navel gazing, and I didn't read it. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott.
Okay.
And actually, I only came to it again recently because I listened to her being interviewed. Julie Louis-Dreyfus has a gorgeous podcast called Wiser Than Me, where she speaks to women who are older than her.
She plays Veep and Seinfeld.
Gosh, she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it is it's just such a lovely, because it's a chat about life, and they're all women, that we would know who are older than her, and she thinks wiser than her, so they impart all this wisdom.
Very clever.
Yeah, it's really beautiful actually, and funny again, because she's so funny. So you kind of have these big life
I can see why you'd like that.
Yeah, I love it. But anyway, I heard Anne Lamott being interviewed, and she was so funny. I was like, oh, hang on a sec. John gave me that book. I didn't realise it was going to be funny, and she was going to be funny. So that's what brought me back in. Was like, oh, if it's a book on writing, so it's instructions on writing and life, and it's such a beautiful book. She's such a funny, compassionate, empathetic writer, but she's really funny. So she kind of like puts everything in the cake and mixes it in, not taking ourselves too seriously with it all. Because when I finished the last book, The Day I Got Trapped in My Brain, which was for middle grade, I kind of was like, I'm kind of done with writing for a little bit. I just didn't want to write. I felt just flat with it a little bit. And there'd been stuff going on, and my dad had just passed away, but the two of them were running so concurrently that I just was done with it for a little while. I just didn't want to write for a while. And then I was like, the more you talk about something, then it becomes a bigger thing that you haven't done. So the whole premise about Bird by Bird is she remembers being a kid, and her brother had like the whole summer to do this project for school on Native American birds. Hadn't done it. We all do that. Got to the end of the summer and broke down in the kitchen, was like, I haven't started the project. There's so many birds. There's too many birds. I can't get a handle of the birds. And the dad sat him up at the table and just said, right, buddy, we're going to take this bird by bird. So it's just
Bird by Bird.
By Bird.
What a clever name.
It's a great name. And actually,
sounds like a lovely book, by the way. You're selling it really well. I kind of find myself looking at it going, that sounds like, because I think, I don't know what age you are, and I'm not going to ask you, but you just gone 52, and I find I'm more able for books that give you a bit of wisdom as well. I'm not really a self-help book person. It just doesn't sound like a self-help book. It's kind of self-help in disguise nearly, but
it is. It's just great life advice, and I'm here for that.
Yeah,
I do like a little bit of wisdom wrapped up in something that's kind of practical, because she's talking about writing, but when you're writing, you are talking about life.
Always.
And you're talking about how you fit into the world in relation to anyone else, and the human condition that can be anything from hope, loss, sadness, despair, and it is that. But her whole Bird by Bird is just, if you're struggling with writing and story and that, just do a little bit every day. It is that, and she just talks about, writing being its own reward, that when you become very goal orientated, which is, if you write after another book, is switching that off. We talked about intuition there. There's a really lovely thing she has in it about trusting your broccoli, because she's very funny. She's like, it came from a Mel Brooks thing that, if you put a piece of broccoli in front of you, you will know how to eat it. So it's like listening to your broccoli, and it's that kind of, it's your intuition. It's the stuff you already know that kind of gets dulled down with age, cynicism, life, expectation, all that stuff. And it's getting more in tune with that, and listening to your broccoli, trusting your broccoli.
How old was your poor dad when he passed away? Do you mind me asking?
He had just turned 84.
You're right.
Yeah. So that was the last day he was awake. We said we gave him a big send off, big party.
When was that? That wasn't too long ago.
That was 3 years ago.
And what did he die of in the end?
He had Parkinson's, but you don't often die of Parkinson's. No. He just, my dad would aspirate if he ate anything. So
his breathing would be out of control.
And he kept getting infections and stuff like that.
I get the sense your dad was great fun.
Yeah.
And but I also get the sense, of course, not everyone loved their dad, or at least, had a beautiful, meaningful relationship with them. You did.
Yeah.
Right to the end. I also get the sense, and forgive me for if I'm being intrusive, but I do get the sense that it really whacked you.
Yeah.
And I only know that from maybe looking at those beautiful pictures that you post on Instagram or what have you, because you miss him like crazy, obviously, to this day. How did you, well, first of all, you gave him a send-off.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you gave him a good send-off. Can you tell me about that?
Well, we joke about it and saying that, like, we gave him such a good birthday party, he never woke up again. Anyway, I guess he's just the first big part of my life that I've lost, and I'm going to lose more. We're all going to lose more, but I think your first loss is huge in your life, and it becomes. And listen, it definitely gets easier. I just miss him, but I think. And it's like it's just a part of all of this.
What do you miss?
I miss his positivity because he was just really positive and fun, and did see the daftness and stuff. Like I love that. I love like he had a way of I just think levity is sometimes so great when things are heavy and dark, of being able to sometimes be able to smile at the ridiculous.
Find that moment.
Like sending him all, like giving him a big party and not,
he'd get that.
Oh, like he'd absolutely laugh at that. So I think it's, but it's like this, it's coming to all of us. So I think I think I just had it very easy for so long in relation to the fact that I hadn't lost anybody that close to me.
Yes.
And it's, like I said, that is going to happen to us all. So
still doesn't take away from the enormity of it.
No.
It's an existential challenge where you go, okay, sure, we just got full Lion King now. So what's it all about? Like, it does take a bit of a while to process.
And it also goes like, it reframes you. You think, when you're younger, it's never going to end in your head. It's never going to end. And that's a great way to be. That's actually a great way to be when you're young.
But there's also a moment where, yes, it's never going to end. And yes, you have that sense of mortality, if you want to call it that, which should, if it can, I think there's a fork in the road here. You can go, we haven't got much time, and you panic. And what are we going to do? And we're all going to die. Or you go, well, if it's that short, or if it's finite, let's have some fun while we're here.
There's huge freedom in it.
If you
great.
Can.
Yeah.
There's a freedom in it too.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Oh, no, there is.
Not to belittle what happened, but
No, there is. And listen, we're all walking, we're all marching. I read this saying and it was lovely. It's like we're all, humans you just holding each other's hand, walking in the same direction. That's what we're doing here.
You're killing the mood here. Jeez.
I want this man to cry.
I just want you to leave me alone. I find this almost...
I know.
No, but it is about, I always say, erring on the side of joy if you can, because life's too short.
Yeah, and, there's times where we have to take things seriously, and I think that you can't be kind of skitting and laughing at everything, but at the moments where... You can.
Skitting and laughing.
Skitting and laughing
all right,
at
Granny.
everything. You're skitting and laughing.
No, but I do love skitting and laughing. I have to.
I don't think I've ever said that.
I think you've just answered my next and final question. What is the name of the autobiography you haven't written yet?
Oh, maybe Skitting and Laughing.
No, it's not going to be that. Have you got a title for us?
The name would be... I just think this is such an Irish thing. Stop, go on. Where we always say to each other, oh my God, stop, go on. It's like,
stop, go
shut
on.
Up. When you tell people to shut up, even though you want them to keep talking. I just think it's just...
Stop, go on.
Stop, go on. Brian has this thing where if he comes back, and not in a gossipy way, but in a way where I just need to know, to know the texture of the story he's talking about. No, because he'll come back and he'll say some random thing going, Steve has got a new job. And I'll be like, when is he starting? What is the job?
What shift is he doing? Has he got it booked a holiday? Is he going is he going to book it online, or has he got a travel agent? Because some people still like a travel agent.
Absolutely.
Is he still smoking? What brand is he smoking?
I need to know about Steve.
Okay, got texture. I like that.
Yeah. And Brian will be like, he'll say it now. He'll preempt it by going, I don't have all the facts.
Oh my God. I know. He's going up the driveway going, what am I going to say to her?
He's probably just making up and panic and just going, Steve is but it reminded, this is what I was thinking about the autobiography. I don't think it would be an autobiography, but I think it would be maybe a book of essays, right? Okay. About those moments, because
I like that.
Yeah, when Brian had written his autobiography, and I asked him if I could say this, he's like, totally can. When I was reading an early draft, and it was still an early draft, there was like a bit where they had just won the Heineken Cup. And like, it was very kind of like, and then we won the Heineken Cup. And I was like, who cried? Who? I was like, I want to know how everyone felt. I was like, you can't, I just think that's the event. What? I need to know all of the feelings. All of it. Like if somebody cried because they were so ready because they've been trying to do it. Yeah. And so I think Stop, Go On would be the things that are the perceived big things, but it's the stuff around it, right? Like where it's the stuff that maybe you do laugh in at the big moments, or the stuff that you don't see in the big moments, like the big life moments. And actually, I was looking at something yesterday online and I was like, that is exactly it. There was a comedian talking about her mum dying. And she was like, you know, when her mum was just about to die, there was this profound moment and there was this silence and her mother reached for her and she thought it was going to be this like, you know, life-affirming thing and this like, we're parting. And her mum just reached her and just said, your hair is really dry. And then passed away. And I was like, it's like my dad sending him up. And it's those things where it's the texture of the big, I guess the big things. It's the detail, and you know that which we don't often do, and that's the joy of books because it's the unabridged version of your thoughts that we kind of don't do a huge amount in day-to-day conversation.
Stop. Go on.
Stop going.
I'm all for that. It's
skipping and laughing.
That's volume 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Amy Huberman, gosh, you're a joy. And used to old people who say, you're a tonic. But now I'm old, so I can't say you're a tonic, legitimately.
Thank you.
So lovely to see you. And it's great. You're one of life's commas. We just take up from where we left off, which I think is
likewise, Ryan. Likewise. And thank you so much for having me on. I really loved that.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
That's the great Amy Huberman, our guest today. Thank you. And there you have it. Another packed episode with some great book recommendations for you to enjoy, all brought to you by Eason, Ireland's favourite bookseller. So shop in your local Eason store or explore hundreds of thousands of titles online at easons.com. Order before 6 p.m. for same-day dispatch and enjoy free delivery when you spend over a tenner. Eason, be inspired.